is, well, let's see, where is it? Here. I don't know if you can see Hedy, The Life and Inventions of Hedy Lamarr.
It's a fantastic show.
Fantastic. Yeah, so it's about the actress and inventor Hedy Lamarr. And she was a famous Hollywood film star around the time of World War II. And so it was the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Uh-huh. She was known as the most beautiful woman in the world, to the point where people didn't recognize that she was literally a genius. Mm-hmm. And during the war, to support the war effort, she drew on her knowledge of munitions from having been married to a munitions dealer in Vienna before she went to Hollywood. And she created a communication system for torpedoes. And we use that communication system now in cell phones, Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, all the things that make our conversation today possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the mission of the work is to inspire audiences to find ways each day to make the world a better place, even in adversity, and to encourage young women in pursuits of science and technology, and to establish Hedy Lamarr as a role model for intelligence, ingenuity, and invention.
Right.
And to that end, after Connecticut, I was to be at the Sci-Fest Festival. So it was the National Science Festival in South Africa.
I'm impressed.
And I was to have 6 performances, each performance for 900 secondary school students.
Right.
So that would have been...
This is great, because when you were here, we had several of our Booker High School kids and some of the middle school kids come to the show. And they were wowed by that experience, because it was truly theatrical and beautifully put together, beautifully performed, but informative in a way that really taught them a lot about crafting a good show.
Yes, thank you.
That's besides, your own personal story, which a lot of solo theater is, but to do another person and to do justice and make it theatrical and not like this is a TED Talk about so and so. That's what's beautiful about it.
Thank you. And I know you were talking a bit about having a director.
Right.
So I've had a few different directors, but the most important one, I'd say, it was Blake. Oh. So Blake spent about a month working with me. More than that, but really focused for about a month before the Planet Connections Theater Festivity in 2017.
Yeah.
And whenever we can, Blake, I would like to do a few more sessions, because it's always good. It's always good to get an eye on what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about doing any kind of solo work, whether it's whatever form it is, because you need who says that any theater piece, I've always noticed it whenever I see no director on any given theater piece, obviously that eye isn't there. So yeah, but I think it's especially important with solo, because it's so intimate, and it's so, the working process is so intimate and so vulnerable. And you need one person sitting there who gets you and who understands everything about what you're getting at, and makes you the best you can be. I had that with Annie, and she had that with me as well. And it's that working process. I mean, it's one of the most endearing things about you and me that for me, that we've had that relationship, because there's nothing like it, and it's forever. I mean, we're tied together forever.
And what the students learned at Booker when they discovered that they could work the collaboration, they were blown away with the fact that in a solo piece that collaboration happened, and some of them learned a tremendous amount directing a solo piece, which was very fantastic. Again, everybody who's watching this, a lot of video I'm not going to be able to play, but a reminder that if you do go to our SaraSolo Productions and go to SaraSolo TV in our playlist, you can see all the things I've been talking about. We'll be able to hear the Booker High School kids, the seniors talk to the junior class, getting them prepared, which is a beautiful little piece of film. You want to look for Sunny D. Smith, who talks about solo theater. If I think I can get my video going up again, I'll try and grab her. Scott Keys talk about his students there, and how important adding solo theater development is now become the curriculum at their school, which is really, really cool.
Wow.
And the other thing is that the students have been mentors for our solo theater artists in the festival, meaning they would help trying to get audiences to come there with the idea that they could talk to their solo artist. And that was very fruitful for the past 2 years as well.
That's amazing.
And we just want to continue to do that. Of course, everybody's like, this is how we're going to do it for a while. I do want to tell you, Blake, that I got an email yesterday from Danny, who is a senior at Booker High School.
Yes.
All the kids, the juniors and the seniors, would like to join us in a program.
Yes.
To talk about solo theater and where we're going in the future of with it with the students. So they got a thumbs up, and I want our audiences to pay attention. We'll film that, and you can watch that as well. So,
excellent. Annie, I want to. Lynne is all set now. I'd like to bring her in to this conversation about working with the director and all the concerns about.
Well, that's
creating
okay. I kind of had her on the program from at 11:20, but only because I've got. I've got everybody scheduled.
Yes, but let's bring her in right now, and let's add her to this conversation.
Okay.
Great. Lynne, you can see.
You can have me now, and you can have me.
I'm trying to stay on a schedule. Okay.
I was hearing this glorious talk about working with a new piece and working with a director and how that changes things. Lynne, you had a director on your both of your pieces.
Yes, and there would be no piece if not for the director. In my particular case, I had the beginnings of an idea, and because I had never done anything like that before, I was completely sure that it was a waste of time and it was very foolish and I shouldn't do it. And so I had met and interviewed actually Pam for the podcast, and she had a little she had a little acting class, and I signed up for it, and I went to the first meeting. There was only one other person there, me and Pam, and I sat on the table and spoke a few words and sang a couple of songs, and I said, now tell me that I shouldn't do this. Do not pander to me. Do not tell me I should do this when I really shouldn't do this. And she said, no, I think this is a really interesting idea. Perhaps you should do it. She said, but of course you know that if you do it, you have to act it. I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought I was going to stand up on the stage and say the words and sing the songs, and that would be that. And it took 2.5 years of my coming to understand what acting was, and rewriting.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, my version, right? Right. As much as I could. Well, when you saw the beginning of it, you saw the first time I got up on that.
Yeah.
And also, my own experience with this is, I had no idea what I was writing. I thought I was writing one thing, and it just kept changing, and I kept thinking, oh no, it's about this. No, it's about this. And finally, really ironically, my musical director Lanny and I went into the studio and just to put the piano vocals down, and afterwards we went out for coffee, and I said, I'm doing this because of this and this and this and this, and he said, well, Lynne, you need to put that in the play. I said, really? He said, of course. And so the last thing I put in the play was that. It's the prologue. But the point is that the feedback that I got from Pam and from Lanny, this piece wouldn't exist without it.
Exactly. We're talking about Pam Wiley, by the way, who finally became your director. Heather went through quite a different beginning with this, because you were writing it at the Grange Hall in Vermont, and developing this over time. So your development was a little different. And also we're talking about the difference between an autobiographical cabaret piece or a musical piece and a biographical something else. And even though each of you are inside each of those main characters, it comes from the same place. Heather, there was quite a different kind of beginnings for you, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, initially I didn't have the courage to write it myself, approached someone else to do it. And unfortunately that didn't work out so well, which was a very painful but great gift in that it got me to do it myself. So in terms of that process, it took me about over a year, really, once I realized I needed to do it myself to get up the courage to do it. But in 2016, at the beginning of the year, I applied for a reading date for the Planet Connections Theater festivity in I think I did that in the beginning of July. Yeah, definitely. And I applied for a performance slot with the United Solo Festival, which ended up my slot ended up being in November. So I had to have a play. And the thing is, people just say, "Oh, just sit down and write it." But the thing is, it's different when it's not autobiographical. When it's biographical about something else, it often involves research. So I couldn't just sit down and write something I didn't know everything about yet. So I needed to do the research. So I'd done a lot of the reading, but I hadn't started the writing. It's very hard to focus in New York City on things like that. So I called up Monica Callan up at it was as she and her husband were creating the Grange Hall Cultural Center in Waterbury Center. And I said, when I was up there 5 years before, that she had talked about wanting to do artist residencies. And I said, I'm having a horrible time getting this done. Can we do that? So I became their inaugural artist in residence because they were just opening the Grange Hall Cultural Center. And so I wrote it there in about 9 days. And I did some refining after that, but the bulk of it was written in 9 days. And it was that sort of deadline crap. I have to have something that got it done. Yeah.
We have a person who's watching this morning, John Shirley, said, I would love to see Heather Massie's Hetty. It sounds fantastic. We said I said, it's brilliant, and we'll have her back. So we'll have to bring it back to Sarasota.
Thank you, darlings. I am here this morning. I have my orange juice because darlings, I love my vitamin C. You see, when I dated John F. Kennedy, and then he asked me what I wanted him to bring with him, I said oranges. No one would say oranges. I say oranges because I love my vitamin C, darling.
Oh, thank you, Hetty.
That's not from the show. There was no room for that in the show.
You just got a smiley face from John Shirley, so thank you.
I can put that up there too. He just said there.
Yeah.
I said I was thinking about recording something, and I really want to highlight, because I need to hear this too, because I've been in major funk the last 6 weeks. But so the things that I added to the show between the first time I did SaraSolo and the second were the paradoxical commandments, which include things like what you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. That kind of thing. So I want to do a note of
are so prevalent.
That's so prevalent.
Oh my gosh. Like when I realized that, I was like, because I was feeling like, because I was saying, Blake, before you came back on, that I'd spent 4 years building to the point where everything fell apart. And it just, I'm having a really hard time taking steps forward right now when I have time to do it, because I'm like, well, what's the use? So I really have to remind myself of some of those things that
Heather, if you haven't had a chance, Heather, go to the SaraSolo Productions, the SaraSolo TV. Look at what we've got up there to stimulate you to do your own living room thing for us, and we'll honor you. and put you up there. And I tell you, it's been helping me through these 5 weeks, getting excited about putting something together.
So yeah, well, I'm excited about it because, well, the thing is, I there was one theater company that does a thing with performers, and they draw names out of a hat for who gets to do 5 minutes. Well, I had to dress up and put my costume on and everything for nothing. And then I got really depressed. But it did really make me think, okay, well, next time I do this, I'm going to record something and make something of it, even if I don't get to could do the 5 minutes. Because it's a lot of work.
Incredible road. And I mean, the fact is, yes, this is a roadblock. But Hetty has such a life and such a I mean, it is your lifetime. So, and Lynne, you may not know it, and Heather was talking about this before about the road this has taken her, and where it has taken her to, which is incredible, because she's gone all over the world, But my big question was exactly what I think what Annie asked you before, and Lynne, I'd love to have you answer this too. Is what do we do now? Lynne, you have a great podcast that happens regularly, so that involves you alone anyway. After you've done the interviews, but how do you get your interviews now if you're not one-on-one with people? Because I know that's how you do them, face to face.
Yeah, I'm not doing them now. I could do them this way.
You could do them this way in a Zoom meeting. That would be great.
Yeah, but I have several in the can that I'm waiting to do. So what I've done instead is send out cuts from my CD. That's what I'm doing instead. I'm sending out cuts from my CD until we get back up and running, and then I'll go back to the interviews.
This is what I'm finding, that this has caused us all to sit back and really have to contemplate, have to make some other decisions about what's going on with us, and where we don't know what the road is going to take us to, but maybe see things very, very differently. We're dealing with this with the high school seniors who we worked with, last year, and they don't have a physical graduation. They don't know where they're going in the fall. They don't, and they're at a point in their lives where actually I was, and I think Annie talked about the same thing. I had a year off after high school to do just this. I went to Hawaii, of all things, and lived there and was a busboy in Hawaii before I went to college, because I was younger than most people. And I graduated when I was 17, and I was younger socially anyway. And I needed the year of life to give me before I really knew where I wanted to go forward. And
thank God you were in Hawaii and not in your living room.
Right. Well, and this is interesting because I've been talking to a lot of the Booker students who are having to not have they're not going to get their prom. They're not going to get their senior recital. They're not going to get their, they couldn't do their musical. And they're all in Zoom meetings in class, in theater, and trying to get through a depression of not being able to finish their senior year the way that they was always hoping it was going to happen. So this is changing a lot of people, but we'll get through it. And so I said to the student, I said, you don't have to go. He's like, what are we going to do now when it comes to going to college? What if we're still going to have to do? I don't want to go to a theater school and pay all that money if I'm going to have to do theater on a Zoom meeting. And I said, well, then don't go to school right away. There's no reason to go to college right away.
Can I jump in?
Oh, please.
But before we do, I see that Ed Scully's trying to come in.
Yeah.
And
I can come back.
Okay.
No, actually, I'm going to ask Lynne to come back later when I wanted her to, because I want to see if I can get Ed up. Excellent. I'm trying to stay in a schedule. So Lynne, we'll have you come back in.
Ed's here, and Lynne just said she can come back.
Okay.
Okay. So, great to see you, Heather.
Okay. Hey, Ed, can you hear us?
Dan says hi.
So you should turn me off then, or do I have to do it?
You just look at Leave Studio at the bottom.
And it says Leave Studio.
Bye.
Hey, Ed, can you hear us? Ed, can you hear us? I know your mic is on. Can you hear us?
Nope.
I think he's in a freeze right now.
We can hear. We heard you for a second, I think. Maybe it was Blake.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Well, he probably can hear us, so we'll continue on as we're going.
There he is.
I don't know if you saw that, but Carol Wolf said, "Can't wait to see Heather perform again. She just loves you." So
me too. Oh, I have news actually. The National Council of Jewish Women is looking to schedule me in Sarasota.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, so Linda from that organization contacted me, and I was trying so hard to figure out when she saw me. I thought it must have been at Home Resources, which we were talking about. And it ended up that she had seen, oh, it's Ed.
Yeah, there he is.
It ended up that she had seen the lecture that I did at the Meadows.
Ah, that's great.
So it looks like February, March is what she's looking at, but we'll see. We'll see what pans out.
A cattle call for a guy with bushy eyebrows. Will this?
Hello, hi Ed, Scully.
Hey Ed, how are you?
Good. Can you hear us, Ed?
Yeah.
You might have to turn the microphone on your. Yeah, just turn your mic up on your on your. What is the system you're using? Is that your iPad?
Chrome.
There you go. You're great.
Yeah, now I hear you now. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you move the screen down just a tad?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Good.
What's
And
in front of the camera?
something is in the way.
Your thumb or something is in front of your camera lens.
It's the lazy boy, I think. Hold on here.
Okay.
Oh, it's a lazy boy. Right.
People who are watching, this is Ed Scully. Ed Scully is on our board, and he's got to be one of my favorite human beings on the planet because of his 1 billion sense of humor.
Yeah, and these are not my smalls I'm wearing. They're actually a bathing suit. So don't.
Okay. Okay.
One last thing, Ed. Before you came in, Heather was talking about working in Sarasolo. Sarasolo. It's not called Sarasolo, Florida.
We live in Sarasota, Florida. I don't know about the rest of you.
Created your own city.
So did you say that? Was there a time frame about that, Heather?
I'm sorry. What for me?
Time frame?
Yeah. So right now, well, tentatively, as everything is, either February 17th or March 17th.
Excellent. Oh, good.
Wednesdays. So that's what we're looking at right now. I'm also juggling a potential booking in Santa Fe around that time. So,
well, around that, hopefully, we'll be doing our February solo festival.
February. Oh, okay.
So, this year it was the first week in February.
Okay.
Oh, and actually it's the 10th through the 15th.
It was the second week, yeah.
But
and that was celebrated 4 artists, so they got 3 performances each instead of.
I know, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Then it's not all that pressure on just one.
No,
one go.
Right. Yeah. We really got to enjoy our artists. We fall in love with all of you anyway.
All right.
Yeah, but it's nice too for the artists. I mean, it's nice having that many.
Hear me now, Heather?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
We can't see you though. If there's something in front of your camera, there's. Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Hedwig Kiesler. I love that.
SKD, I'm not. Yeah.
But I was afraid when you performed at the Harare Fringe Festival, if they didn't like you, they might put you in a kettle. I was worried about that.
Please. That was Haifa, the Harare International Festival of the Arts.
But I was just worried.
Oh, please. No. I have a goddaughter now in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe, named after Leslie Lee.
Trying to get somewhere where I can
her
named
name
after
is
Leslie Lee?
Yes. Leslie, Cynthia, and Teeny. I need.
I can't hear Heather.
Oh, he can't hear me.
Yes.
How do you hear them and not me? How does he hear you and not them?
Ed, what's your mic what is your mic doing? Can you hear me?
So this whole show is about learning how to use
Right.
Well, I think a lot of these have been, So once we get more going, we'll be faster on that.
Your mic on your computer.
Apparently, according to the icon.
So Heather, we might have to have you come back on again. We're going to do a whole series of just celebrating one artist. We can just chat and talk and maybe do some stuff. So I want to arrange to have that with you. Would you be willing to do that with us?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Okay.
I had it after our broadcast yesterday, which you so beautifully watched. Almost, I think the whole thing.
Yeah.
I know you were there. It really got me charged because I'm thinking one of the things I love doing is celebrating people and finding ways to like spend a full hour with somebody and really pull them apart and pick them and just see what they're about. But and on several different subjects. And I think this would be one great one. And I will do that in the next month or so because we're starting to set up studios, Annie and I both. This is our versions of our crude studios. We're getting good mics and finding out all kinds of other ways to do things and get better cameras. And as we learn about how all this works, it'll be better and better. So this is great. I love the. Well,
you know about my goal is to have a trilogy of shows of women in science.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
other people don't know that. Sally Ride.
Yeah. So my next one is to be on Sally Ride. Unfortunately, all my research books are up in New York, and I'm in Virginia.
Oh, you're in Virginia.
Right. But also, I mean, I really intended to do a lot of travel and go like to NASA headquarters and go and interview people who knew her personally, because I really felt that I want to paint an accurate picture of her if I'm going to paint one, and she was such an intensely private person that I wanted that personal insight. So I don't know when that can be possible again, but
you make it possible. We'll make it possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Zoom or something.
So, guys, I'm going to attempt something here. I'm going to attempt to screen share here something and see if my video is working again. So, it's something that our audiences have been saying.
Oh,
maybe not.
It's Jason Alexander.
Yeah, it pops out of me this time, Blake, and I'm so sad about that. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, I may not be able to do any video today, which is sad.
I love what you did with Christine's from yesterday. I was hoping when she did all those impersonations that you were going to pull it, and I'm so glad you did. and wow, when you put the pictures of the people up,
Hello,
like the rivers and all.
Here, and I just wanted to tell you about a beautiful independent company around solo artists called SaraSolo. SaraSolo is, I would say, a great, intimate, authentic experience to have with its performers, because a lot of the performances come from the most internal parts of the performer, in that they come from life experience. And I think it's really cool to get that side of performers when they step outside of a character and really explore like what's already within them and the stories that need to be told within them. It's a great way to be up close and personal with the stage. It's a great avenue to do something that is more of like, not in a bad way, but low commitment theater, in that you don't have to follow this big, long, epic story. The the story is more within the human connection and more within the human experience of yourself. We almost explore ourselves as we're exploring the personal stories of the actors. And because the stories are so authentic to who they are, and
I think she's frozen.
Oh, we got a good bit of her. That was a good run.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I wanted to say also some things about SaraSolo. In terms of how supportive of a festival it is. It's really the top in terms of the support it gives to artists. What you guys set up. For example, at Scully, he was on a bit ago. I'm sure he's done a million things, but you have volunteers who drive the artists where they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, literally. And for the festival, you right? No, literally, literally. But you know, for a festival where you were having 16 artists over about a week and a half, you know, between the 2 weekends, I mean, you would pick us up from the airport. You would host us in volunteers' homes, which I love staying with people who live in the areas where I'm going because a hotel can be anywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I got to stay with Carol Kleinberg, and Valerie David was there that year, and she wanted to spend some time with me one afternoon. So Ed fetched her and brought her over to stay with me, well, for the afternoon. So so that and saying that you have a mentor or you even then you paired us with
an advocate, an
advocate, that's what you called at the time.
Well,
advocate.
You know, we discovered when we were doing festivals, and you probably found that in other places too. You don't have the support, so you're supposed to just come in and be the artist. And when you have, I mean, we don't charge a participation fee,
right?
So, but then you're responsible to get yourself down here. But then once you're here, we do everything we can to make your stay nice. And the audiences here really appreciate solo theater. And so you might run across someone in the grocery store and they go, "Oh, I really loved your show." And then they want to stop and talk to you in a way that's different than if they saw you do, you know, Hello Dolly at the some theater, you know.
Right.
It's just why I brought up Sorka. Augustine is now our photographer. She's just incredibly beautiful. If you ever want to look at her, Sorka, it's SORCHA, Sorka Augustine Photography. Go look at her work because she really understands movement. And but she's also been an audience member. That's why she wanted to talk. I'd like to speak about my experience as an audience member. And she was so articulate and so thought provoking to be able to. Yeah, we know we have an experience with our audience.
Yeah,
that's like, you know, scene partner.
Yeah.
But she was able to really reiterate that she would go home and really have a thought-provoking experience. I don't know. I have another video I wish I could show, but I don't think it's going to pop up, so I'm not going to try and bother. But again, so everyone who's watching, you can go to SaraSolo Productions on YouTube, look at our Sarasota TV, and you can see a whole bunch of the stuff. You're probably going to see Heather on there. We're going to do a tribute to Heather. And we probably will do another live broadcast where it's just one-on-one and we don't have to worry about the video, and we can actually have you pull full screen and you can do a performance, which you saw Cody Clark did yesterday.
It was a lot of fun. Of course, he doesn't have to do makeup and hair.
No, he doesn't have to do makeup and hair. He could do makeup and hair. We've got Stephen K. Davis, who was in our festival. Was he the year that you were down here? He might have been. He said, "Yay, three great people all up on my screen."
No, but I met him in New York, and I have one of his quotes up on my website. He said that I'm the female. Oh my God, what's the name of the guy who did "I'm My Own Wife"? Jefferson Hayes.
He says, yes." Yes, he says, "Yes."
Yeah, so he said I was the female version of him. Yeah.
Oh, Jefferson Mays. Alan.
Jefferson Mays.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
You're on screen. Okay, so let's.
What do you know?
Let's hang out. All right.
We're We're all doing important stuff.
Hi.
You're on, Alan. We can hear you. You're doing great.
Good. I was, Blake was just getting me on. There he is.
Yay.
We brought him on stage a little too soon, but here we are. I love this. I love this.
You can take me off.
Wait.
No, he's scheduled to be on about 1 second from now.
Oh, wonderful. And I, Heather, I'll have to watch this video again to hear.
To see what else I said.
Yeah.
I have a couple other love notes to give for SaraSolo when I have a chance. Wait, Alan, were you? This is Carl Sundberg?
No, Alan did beautiful. Alan wrote 2 beautiful pieces. His first piece blew the audience out of the wall. Alan,
by the way, let's introduce. This is Alan Brasington.
Brasington, yes. Alan Brasington. This is Heather Massie. Okay, and he did an incredibly beautiful piece. With that, talk about it, Alan.
Well, it was the poem of my life.
Yeah.
Which had to do with how I came out of being Poe, and when nothing was expected of me because I lived on a dead-end road. And there's a very large dead-end sign at the end of that road. And I went to my guidance counselor to ask what I should do with my life, and he said, poor people don't go to college. And so I was fortunate enough that I had a mother who told me not to listen to people who gave me negative messages. And so I pretty much dedicated this poem of my life to my mother, who was an extraordinary person.
Yeah, beautiful. And he did it as Reader's Theater, which is perfectly beautiful because he's a classically trained actor. So so he wasn't like running around the stage and picking props and stuff like that. It was with a music stand and his incredible acting chops. It was divine. It's just divine.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also wanted to bring Alan on because Alan has not only been a part of the SaraSolo Festival, but he's also been part of Solo Synergy for 2 years now. For the first 2 years with the intergenerational program that we have at Booker Middle School. Carrie Mills's class of they're about 12 or 13-year-old kids. And he so graciously said, yes, I'll be one of your elders. And I want to, because this fundraiser that we're doing here for the Giving Challenge is centered around our educational outreach. And in a little while, I'm going to have Blake read where we are right now in our fundraising. But would you talk a little bit about your experience? This, again, as I mentioned to the audience earlier, is about pairing our elders with our teens, and they get to know each other. They write monologues and come back and perform them as the person that they did. And Alan really did it. He really did. He nailed the teen that he was portraying. And I think you're going to have him do a little bit of Annabelle in a bit. But tell us about your experience with that.
Well, what I wanted to mention, too, because I was thinking, I go to England every year because I studied at the Royal Academy, and I go to the theater now there once a year, usually at Christmas time, because I love pantomimes, which are particularly kind of fun English humor type of thing. But the English are now doing blind casting, which I think is really quite amazing. It's not just racially blind, but it's also male-female blind. Of course, the Shakespearean theater and classical theater was originally all male, and women were not allowed to be members of the acting profession. But now the last thing I saw was Midsummer Night's Dream, and the craftsmen were half men and half women. Half of them were played by women and half were played by men. And Tamsin Gregg, if you saw the 12th Night recently, she played Malvolia, and she was one of the first people to be blind casted as a woman playing a male.
That was heart-wrenching.
It's interesting because because it was a woman doing it and having to use those lines, it really shifted that whole perspective of Mavelia.
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't a man playing a man; it was a woman just being a woman in that role. Right. That was devastating.
Well,
really
and also devastating. And also, if you see all male productions of Shakespeare plays, you hear when Roxanne, I think it's Roxanne, says, if I were a man at the end, I would kiss as many of you as had beards that pleased me, etc. And there are all of these overtones in the words that are being said.
Absolutely.
But what
Rosalind?
Rosalind, yes.
Rosalind, yeah.
And we're talking about an expert here.
What I was going to say is that we did blind casting, with our youth and elders.
Yes, we did.
My first year, I was a 12-year-old girl, and the second year, I was a 13-year-old boy. So, and there is something, I think especially with the pandemic, with everything, the world is changing. And we have to, I think we're going to reach a point where acceptance is going to become all important in what's going on in this world today. The world has changed, and it's not going to get back to being the way that it was when I was growing up 100 years ago,
exactly.
Under the Roosevelts. So anyway, that's what I thought was really quite wonderful about us getting together. I think 23 of us, maybe, men and women of a particular age, over the age of 40, meeting these children.
Over the age of 60.
Yes. Meeting these children who were, 12 and 13. And we would talk to one another, and it's quite amazing. Of course, I have nieces and nephews, but it's quite amazing when you see that the world goes on and the children, I was quite amazed at their brilliance, and not necessarily sophistication, but brilliance in their knowledge of living and what they were interested in becoming and knowing. And I think that we shocked them as well. We weren't just a bunch of old fogies.
Yeah.
No.
There may be a formality to the process in that you come into the classroom, but that's where that stops, because the process is that you meet together, talk face to face, which is an unusual thing, and learn everything you can about your counterpart. And don't you, Alan? And then you develop either the kids, students were all tasked with creating a monologue as their elder.
Mm-hmm.
Elders have an open idea about anything they can do. It could be a dedication. It could be we had a jazz pianist our first year.
Yeah, I was told this earlier today.
Great.
Yeah.
So all kinds of things. But Alan, in that first talk, and I got to see you specifically interact, and that was fascinating because of your two different students, very different students on 1 year and then this year too. But communicating, sometimes some of these students said, "I've never talked to anybody this old before." I've never
communicated. My grandparents,
and vice versa. I mean, some of a lot of our elders have nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and but some of them don't. And it always becomes a great conversation.
Right. Alan, do you want to do a little bit of Annabelle for us?
Sure. All right, let me.
What I threw up on the screen earlier, Annabelle, so you can see who and Alan was standing behind her. So that's
I was about to say, I wish I could see him do this. To see you perform, Alan, since you were there when I performed. So I'm excited to see this.
Okay. All right. Give me a second so I can become Annabelle.
Right.
Hi. My name is Annabelle. My middle name is Thuy, after my mom, Thuy Ai. We're Vietnamese. My relatives call me Thuy An for my mother and for my name, Annabelle. My father is Dat Kai, and my older brother, Daniel Long. He teases me, but it's all right. My favorite color is turquoise, or maybe purple. And my favorite dish is shrimp scampi with linguine because of the wide noodles. Our family moved here from York, Pennsylvania when I was 3. I like living here because of the water. I like seeing the water. My brother and I both take Taekwondo. I don't go as much as I used to. I have a blue belt, and my brother Daniel has a black one. Almost. He's 18, a senior, and wants to go to West Point to become a soldier. When I first started going to Taekwondo, that's a Korean method of kicking and punching. I saw this girl there, and she'd say hi, and well, I'm shy, but I said hi. I didn't stop her anything, Maura, and every time I went, she said hi, and I said hi, and one day at Thai, she said hi, and I stopped. And well, her name is Kylie. She wears glasses. She's half Korean because her mom is, Korean. and her father is Western. Kylie is in musical theater. She's 13 too. My birthday was September 22nd this year. Well, every year, but this year it was on a Saturday. And Kylie and I hang out with our friend Charlie Ann at Taekwondo tournaments and stuff. And once after school cafeteria in 5th grade, we went to the skating rink. I didn't notice till we got there that I'd left the purse Kylie gave me as a present for my birthday in the girls' bathroom at school. It was white with a kind of Aztec drawing on the front, and there was $20 in it. Well, we went right back to the school, and my purse was gone. Somebody stole it. I think I would like to be a pediatrician or a hairstylist. I find braiding enjoyable. It's intricate and it makes me happy because I can look at my friend's head when I'm finished and the job is done and my work is over and I can look at it. And this week I'm going to play tennis for the first time. I'm very excited. I've been practicing my forehand and my backhand, getting ready for the first game. I'm glad I can play because I broke my arm once and dislocated my elbow. The doctors used 3 needles right here. See these 3 holes where the needles went in? It was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. Did I tell you my brother teases me? Well, I wish my parents would be very happy they've done so much for me, and they deserve it. Thank you.
Oh. When Annabelle saw it, tears were just pouring down her face because she had never seen it until he performed it. And so did her mother, and so did her friend. It was a lovely tribute. Alan, I would so desperately love to show the other one, but my video is just crashing everything. So I'm inviting everyone, if you've enjoyed watching Alan and Annabelle, please go to SaraSolo Productions on YouTube, go to our SaraSolo TV, and watch Alan and Caleb and Alan, because this year he did a tribute to a little boy named Caleb, and it's delightful. Caleb was an interesting kid, and now I'm going to talk about that. I see that we got someone going to come in a few minutes, but or 1 minute. He was homeschooled most of his life, and he finally went into middle school and was way behind. He was way behind in reading, way behind in many, many things, but a quirky, fascinating kid. And Alan nailed him. The kid was struggling desperately trying to figure out what to do about Alan, discovered that just being theatrical was the most important thing. So he didn't speak a lot, but he tried to act out an accident that Alan had, that he was intrigued by. He didn't remember all the facts, and I said, well, you get to make it up. So that simple little thing that he did was eye-opening for the teacher, eye-opening for his class. And some people say, well, I didn't see much of it, but it was profound. And then Alan followed the funniest monologue in your life. So don't miss it. Go see it. We have someone else popping in right now, and I'm going to see if I can pull this up without my computer freezing. It's Jeremy Mossman.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
Hi. I've got my caftan on, and I've got my computer keeps freezing, so I'm assuming you can see that I have a clown nose on, right?
No.
Okay, then it's frozen.
Yeah.
There, it'll come on in a minute. I get caught up.
We're seeing what you did a couple minutes ago.
Right. Yeah. It'll eventually pop up. So you see a clown nose on Jeremy, and eventually you'll see a clown nose on me.
Oh, excellent. So Jeremy, meet Heather Massie.
Hi, how are you?
And Alan Brasington. Now you know Alan.
Hi.
But Ryan was with us in 2019, our 2019 festival. There you are.
There's your nose.
Great, because I still can't see it yet. I'm still frozen. But there you go.
Sure. Okay. No, we're seeing it. It's great.
Clown nose is in symbolic for Jeremy and I, because Blake and I had a conversation on the phone once, and he said, I'm so tired of everybody's drama. So I said, well, let's make a pact. Let's live in a comedy instead. So I started carrying a clown nose in my purse, so that when I was dealing with someone's drama, I would squeeze it to remind me, oh, that's right. They live in King Lear and I'm in Hello Dolly.
and now I have a clown nose on me at all times. So.
Yes. So I start giving my friends clown noses, and Jeremy and I are really fond of it. I'm also wearing a caftan. If you recognize it, it is something that you will recognize because you have one too.
I do. You told me you were going to wear your caftan, and I thought, well, I should wear mine. And then I thought, I don't know. I don't know about performing in my caftan. I'm already in my kitchen, and so I put pants on today.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Nice thing about a caftan is I don't have to wear pants.
I'm a little jealous.
Too much information.
Jeremy, you might have just seen Alan just did an incredible performance of his Annabelle. That he created the first year we did Solo Synergy, and that was an incredible burgeoning year where we learned all kinds of things. But now the program has grown in other ways, and now it can be grown to other communities too, and it's just incredible. But we are also talking, and this is something we'll talk about with you at the end of your session, but we're talking about how we deal with all of this, with the quarantine and with stay at home and with all the changes in our futures as we might see them. And Heather has been, taking her show Hetty all over the world. And in fact, the last place was Zimbabwe again, wasn't it?
No, well, I was supposed to be last week in South Africa.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah, South Africa. Then I was supposed to be in Sweden now, and then Finland, Italy, and South Africa again. Right. So, yeah.
And Jeremy is also a wonderful educator. In fact, when I first met Jeremy, we were working with the Broadway Theater Project up in Tampa, where we were on the faculty. We were in the faculty for about 5 years. Right. And I fell instantly in love with Jeremy, and I loved team teaching with him because I was teaching in the acting department. He was in the music department, and we just had similar ways of enjoying students and teaching and learning from them, that it was so much fun to just come into each other's classroom and work together.
Tell us who those students were. People don't know what Broadway Theater Project is, but
take it away, Jeremy.
Yeah. It's been a stomping ground for a lot of Broadway musical theater, triple threat training, working with faculty from all over America mostly, also a little bit of Germany sometimes, and just amazing people come in and inspire and teach the students there.
And who are the students? They're pre-college?
Two groups, yeah.
Yeah, it could be anywhere from like about 15 to in their 30s. My first summer there was a student who was just a year younger than me. And sometimes it's an opportunity for these students to not only grow their craft, but also have exposure to people in the industry, because casting directors from New York will come in, agents, there are influential people. So it's an opportunity to rub elbows with some folks that it would take a little bit of time to sort of work up to that level if you were just doing it the traditional way by auditioning.
Right. It's usually about 2 or 3 groups. Oh, I got a delay in my screen here, but there are 2 or 3 groups. You'll have your pre-college kids, which are kids coming out of high school, getting ready to be prepared to go into college musical theater. And the other group would be post or pre-professional, meaning they're getting ready to leave college and getting ready to go out into the world. And then for several years, they even had a group younger than that, that were, middle school kids or whatever, getting ready to go into high school that are probably performing arts high schools. So it was an interesting group of tiers, but they all had this common love of theater and especially musical theater.
Great. Yeah, I just want to give a sense of who those were. Just before you say anything more, I need to, since we are, this is sort of a telethon here.
Yes, we should get everybody caught up.
I need to acknowledge some of the donations that have come in this morning. Starting with Sandra Moulin gave us $25, Bruce Rogers $50, Michael Bealey $100, Joe Godfrey $100, Ellen McCourt $100, Stuart Wilk $50. Michelle Larson gave us $50. Sarah Christensen gave us $25. There's an anonymous donor. They've been donating a lot. $50. Sandra Musicante, $25. Marilyn Troe, $100.
Wow, good.
Marcy Burns, $50. Bernard Unelli, $50. These are incredible. We are these donations are given to 3 different categories. We are the small organization category, and we are right now we're number 17 out of hundreds. So we're doing okay, and we're the top theater company in the small organizations area. The top theater company in the small organizations area.
Yeah.
Number 1. So that's very different from our history. It's very different from 2 years ago. So, yay! Thank you, folks.
Yay. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Get that out of the way. And that's not out of the way. That's exactly what we're doing.
This fundraiser goes until noon, so if people still haven't gotten a chance to do it, you got up to noon today. So,
and if you're watching the broadcast too, Stephen, our wonderful friend Stephen Davis, who's watching, understands, and Heather did this before, that if you put something in the comment section, we can throw that right up on the screen. I have to tell you,
we just got one right now from We just got one.
But before that, so Alan, John Shirley was watching you, and he said, "Wonderful, thank you." Stephen Davis said, "Brilliant." You need to hear that. So that's really great. So Carol Wolf saying Marilyn is a good friend who wants to get involved with the education program. Thank you, Marilyn. That's great.
Yay! Wonderful.
Did she also say bravo for Alan?
Yes, she did. Thank you. And she also said bravo. So there she goes. Carol was also a part of this year's intergenerational solo synergy. So that was really cool. Good.
Yeah. And again, you can go to SaraSolo Productions and you get to watch her with the Kyle, which is a delightful piece. We tried to show it yesterday and my computer kept freezing. So please go and enjoy them. They're quite lovely. And get involved. Help us if you're in Sarasota and if you're 60 plus, we could sure use your help. We work with the students. And we may have to do it like this for a while, but there we go. So back to Jeremy. Do you tell us about what coming to do the solo festival with us and how you created your piece, because it was a beautiful little musical, solo musical.
I don't know, the bug bit, like I hadn't performed in maybe about 10 years, 12 years, like in any serious capacity. I used to do, musical theater things in musicals as a job. And I was lucky enough to work for, a handful of years and support myself doing theater, but I kind of got burnt out of it and got tired of living in a very small capacity, like living with everything I owned in a bag. And if I bought something, I threw something out, and I wanted more stability. And then I moved to a place where I could stick around, and I started to teach. And that I really fell in love with teaching. I found that this was a more satisfying way of sharing my art. I'm giving you the long story. I'll be quick.
So are you saying that your Mecca was Kalamazoo, Michigan?
No, I'm from Ontario, and I started here, and I keep traveling. Now I'm in Wisconsin.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so I started a new job in Wisconsin, and after my first year, I kind of said it would be good for me to do a faculty recital, because that's a thing faculty members do, and I'm new in town, I'm new to the school, so maybe I'll do a recital. And then I thought, the first thought I had was, I always come back to the music and lyrics of John Bucchino, who's an amazing composer lyricist.
Love his material.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've been singing some of his songs since I was in my undergrad. And if somebody says, will you sing a couple songs in this concert? I wind up singing Bucchino somehow. So I thought maybe I would do a concert of John Bucchino's music, because maybe a lot of the students don't know it, and I'll get to expose them to this amazing artist. And so as I started to list the songs that I already knew, and then said, well, I love this song, I can learn that song, and I started to throw them all together into, a document, I recognized that if this song came before that song was followed by this song, then that's like a thing that happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept building off of that until the recital became like a song cycle with a narrative that, without adding anything and without changing anything, I didn't change any of the arrangements. I didn't cut up songs. I used them exactly as he wrote them, but just putting them in an order. It actually told the story of before this big relationship that I had, through the relationship that I had, to after the relationship, to now. And it was kind of a profound experience. And you hear a lot of writers and artists talk about how their art kind of guides them. It's not an intellectual process. It's really what the piece is demanding. And there were so many nights where I'd wake up and go, oh, if I just change the order of this song and that song. And just decided what it needed to be, until it was about a 55-minute song cycle that told this story of 3 years of my life.
And for people who don't understand what a song cycle is, it simply means there's no narrative in between. There's no spoken narrative. It is one song to the next, to the next, to the next.
And usually, it's bound together. Usually it's bound together by, it's one composer's work.
Right.
But this was one composer's work, but it also had a flow like a musical. It told a full story without any script.
Pattern. Yeah, with no pattern. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jeremy, one thing before we go further, technically, could you just turn your mic down just a tad?
I can also talk quieter.
No, we don't want you to talk quieter. No, I think if you just turn your mic down, you can still. The enthusiasm was wonderful. So let's try that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know how to do that, so I'll just talk quieter. There's not really an option.
Oh God. Okay. All right.
But I feel also like I'm yelling at the screen. It's like you talk to me.
Yeah, I mean you're here.
I have to tell you that when I was trying to set this whole up thing for today, I was letting all the artists know about what time they could come in. And I type a letter to someone like Alan Brasington, give him his time, and then I would copy and paste and stick it in the next one, and then take out the name and readjust it because I didn't want to completely write. And I forgot to take Alan's name out when I wrote Jeremy. Jeremy's body was correct, but I didn't change the name. So he said, "Who's Alan?" And I said, "Oh my God,
that's Alan."
And now you know.
I can't believe that I did that. And I also told him, about a clown nose and what have you. And he wrote, an Alan sort of Jamie, a clown nose sort of Ann. Wait for me, I'm ready now. I'll StreamYard when I can.
Which is John Pacino.
No. A little Sondheim.
It is a little Sondheim, but it also has a great sense of John Pacino. I love it. I'm ready. So technical stuff aside, here we go. That it's fascinating, Jeremy. It's remarkable to see how a group of songs within a song cycle can tell the whole story. I was I hate to use the word move, but it was so compelling. And from start to beginning, it started from start to beginning, from A to C. From A to B, it was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. But it was an incredible 50 minutes or hour long piece that tells it all with one composer, one solo artist. Incredible.
Well, thank you. What came out of it for me, there was this amazing sort of response that I didn't expect. One was a Broadway World review in which the reviewer gave a summarization of the plot, which was that I was going through a divorce from my wife. And all the details were.
Yeah, I remember being so intrigued by where they came from. It was amazing.
I loved it because I didn't say this is the story of my relationship with my ex-boyfriend. I just let the story tell itself. And beyond the Broadway World article, also the talk back after the show, folks connected to the story and were able to put their own experiences inside of it. So it really, to me, it's that remarkable thing about live performance where somebody on stage can be doing something very specific to their own narrative, and anybody in the audience could be feeling and going through their own thing that could be distinctly different, and it really transcends.
That's solo. When something is that specific to a character or an individual's heart, it becomes universal.
Yeah.
And you're talking about all what happened when Alan spoke, what happened when Heather spoke. It's when something is that specific and that good. Everybody gets it.
At Booker, when we teach solo theater development and the kids choose to do cabaret style, I have in our SaraSolo TV or our SaraSolo Productions thing, I have a playlist set up. And each playlist is so that students can go in there and access like solo play work or cabaret. And my cabaret class for them is like a cabaret appreciation class. I usually end up crying all the way through it because I'm so amazed at the performances there. And one of the students this past year said, "Thank you for walking me through that." Looking at how people create their pattern that leads into a song or how they manipulated something to tell. He said, I want to apologize for crying in your class. I said, well, I was crying too. But it's found that and some of them did choose to tell their solo theater piece by using music. You know, whether it was some of them wrote their own material. You know, and it's delicious. So they all found different ways of telling solo theater. But the cabaret was really fun class to teach. And you and Jeremy and I were talking about maybe teaching a cabaret class.
You are going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of probably not going to happen this summer unless we can find a way to do it online.
And that's the answer. I mean, and in fact, that makes it a lot simpler because you can be in two different places. Jeremy, by the way, Heather, actually, you got to sing with Jeremy, didn't you? Didn't you come into the cabaret master class? Didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
I did that. What
Jeremy was at the piano. That was
okay.
Yeah, and
I
exactly, and I wouldn't have recognized that either. But Jeremy to me is he's a remarkable teacher in that he understands the instrument so well, like any great opera coach, but he understands the instrument. And he understands what's going on in here with any given singer, and can produce remarkable sound. I mean,
also Jeremy appreciates who you are, where you are, with you, what you do, and helps enhance that. Yep. He's not saying that's wrong. You can't. That's wrong to be doing that. So, you do that. How interesting. Let's grow that. Let's grow that. And look, did we just discover that you can also do that? You didn't know. Let Jeremy tell the story about Amazing.
Oh, it's gonna get loud. I'll back up.
Okay, back up.
I think that we all have made all the sounds that we want to make in our singing already. We've just not made them all in our singing. But we use the same apparatus for our speaking, but hemispherically, it's opposite. We are much more right brain when we sing, and our singing, the commands that are executed are much more right brained, and left brain is what more runs speech. Not that it's mutually exclusive, but they can balance each other. And before I really had an appreciation for the nuts and bolts of the anatomy and the physiological actions that coordinate into vocal sounds and all the things that I'm really passionate about right now and growing with. My friends used to razz me when I was a young voice teacher because I get enthusiastic and I go, "It's amazing! It's amazing!" And eventually they'd to a point where they'd said that amazing was coming, and I recognized that was a high note, but it didn't feel like my singing. It didn't feel anything like my singing, and I had no concept of where it would have been on the piano because it felt like such an unfamiliar sound to my singing, yet is a sound I make all the time in life because I'm very enthusiastic and animated and just a large personality. And so I sat down at my piano and I just started to interrogate this thing that I do all the time. I'm going to back up. So I started amazing. And then I said, "But can I hold it? Because I'm just sort of touching it. Can I hold it? It's amazing. It's amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, I can." And it doesn't seem to cost me any energy. And I still, even after holding it, I don't know what note it is. And I have no frame of reference. I don't understand it, but I know it's high. And so I started to then think, well, if it's going to be a singing sound, could it have vibrato? So I started to play around. It's and I was like, "Yeah, I can." And it seemed so high. But it's not like my soprano is amazing. It's not that. It's something else. It's some other note, some other way, some other style. And then I went, "What note is it?" Because I was at my piano, but I refused to find out what the note was first. It's a high F. Usually it's between E and G, but that's above tenor high C.
Yeah.
I'm working hard on figuring out how to sing a high C.
Wow, yeah.
I've been mixing, belting, whatever you want to call it, blue plating, a high F all the time. Why was I working so hard on a C when my voice was extending far beyond that in a different context? Yes. And I thought this was the cherry. If I saw a high F above high C on sheet music,
yeah,
what crazy face would I have started to make to
You would think I could never do that. Could never.
I've done that so many times.
Yep. And the thing is, when you can, and then you know it's coming up in the song, and you like get all
yeah.
Shit.
That's it.
When you can do it if you're not thinking. Yeah.
Right. Because you know it's somewhere beyond where you know it. It's beyond an intellectual knowing.
Exactly.
Now, I intellectually understand it, but I understand it because I had experienced it.
Right.
Right. And you made sure you knew that you could do it before you checked it out.
Now you hear all those guys like Michael Kilgore and Titus Burgess, and that's where they live.
Yep.
It's the same kind of usage of the voice that we hear all these tenors that are like just soaring up. Alex Newell, I mean, like these amazing singers that are now really making a life up there.
Do you think it's because somebody came ahead of them and then they said, "Oh, I can do that"?
Like me?
Yeah, or any of those people, even like, yeah, exactly, because you did that. No, it's just because, like Heather was making a face in terms of looking at sheet music and saying, "I can't sing that." I've been what they called a lazy tenor for such a long time because I looked at an A and I said, "No, I know what happens up there," and until I was relieved and told I'm actually a baritone, so that's cool.
There you go.
That took it way down, so that was cool. But this idea that runners who long distance runners get faster miles as time goes on because we know now we can do that.
Right.
It may not be training necessarily as much as it is the thought that actually we can accomplish that.
That's it. It's a question of belief. If you believe you can't sing high, you're not going to sing high.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you have the physical capacity or not. Your beliefs run the show.
Right.
It's amazing.
Right. So Jeremy, would you be willing to sing something for us?
Yeah. I happen to have a keyboard right here behind me.
I love it.
I figured I prepared some John Bucchino music because I thought that was relevant. I don't know how much singing you want.
I don't know. Let's see. What are you inspired to do this morning?
I don't know. I pulled up 5 songs. Not that I intend on doing them all. But, I don't know. Let's start with.
How about one of your comedy ones?
Like Playbill.
Yeah.
All right. This is so if my show it was before a relationship, through a relationship, and this song I could have written, and it's kind of a pastiche on Sondheim's Passion. If you know that show, you'll recognize what John Bucchino is doing here. But the words in this song, the experience of whoever John Bucchino was writing this about, whether it was him or somebody else, is so amazingly. It amazingly lines up with what I was going through after my first date with who became my partner for a couple years. So this is Playbill. It's kind of a beautiful stream of consciousness. I flashed the playbill from that Sondheim show, still too present in my mind. You asked if I just seen that Sondheim show, and didn't I love it? And isn't it encouraging that love can be blind? I laughed and said one hates that leading character in proportion to how desperately they've shown their own need. I said, I really loathe that character. And you graciously agreed. I don't do this sitting in bars. It must show as I stumble through this, bearing my past and cataloging stars, opening to you, not something that I normally do. Sure, the alcohol and smoke screen make it easier. Drink by drink, flirt by flirt, vertical mile by mile, climbing through the rocks and the dirt to the top of a hope and the brink of a hurt. But I'm heartened by your smile. Or is it just a smile you bestow on anyone who reflects you golden in his eyes? Was it hint of promise in that smile? Or simply common courtesy, platonic curiosity? All that there will ever be? Were you really seeing me? Possibly admiring my style? Feeling some connection? Or were you merely mesmerized by your own adorable, adored reflection? We're too young. I'm too old. Who knows, maybe I'm not. You're too beautiful. I'm too plain. It's impossible. It's a joke. But somehow, while we spoke, I forgot. Did I say the right thing? Was I clever? Was I crude? Should I have stuck with that disinterested, polite thing? Was I forward to the point of being rude? But I suddenly grew shy. Did my charm trickle dry, or did you find my shyness charming? When I handed you my card, was it alarming or delightfully disarming? I can't guess. When I bolted through the door, did I leave you wanting more or wishing I monopolized your bliss? I stayed as long as I could stop. And now I'm home again. Already trying far too hard not to wait for you to find my card and
Oh my God.
That's so fun.
Oh.
That's so fun.
It's a cool piece. It's a neat little work of art.
And that was the life of your piece. Incredible.
Jeremy, do you write songs?
No. I write a song. I was like, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And I was like, that's the overture to Ragtime. So,
well, but it's the same 8 notes, ain't it? Anyway,
I just didn't write any of them.
Yeah, I always wonder what that process is. I that's what I imagine might happen to me. I'd be like, "Ooh, that's cool," and realize I didn't write it.
Exactly. Well, I've heard. We know that Sondheim has repeated himself in different ways. There's a phrase that plays in 3 or 4 of his. He's
allowed to plagiarize
himself. Of course he is. He's the genius who gets to do anything he wants to.
Anything.
I mean, you have a vocabulary of who you are as a performer, and you can try and stretch it as much as you can, but just still use your vocabulary.
Right.
So it's perfectly right.
We have a remarkable son who writes music, and I've always wondered how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I hear music in my head. I don't know how to write it, but he
put a little black dot on the page and put a little line. And then you put another little black dot and put a little line down that way.
Type it. But I always find that intriguing and incredible. But
I was watching John Bucchino actually playing piano. He has some beautiful videos that he posts on Facebook, and he has a Patreon if you want to support his work. But he was playing Rodgers and Hart song. Might have been Where or When or My Funny Valentine. And it was just this amazing rendition that was so different and so filled with alternate melodies and textures going on. And then he says at the end, it was an improvisation. And I'm like, mind blown. Like, such an amazing gift. And there are composers, I believe Adam Gettle is one, who doesn't write at a piano or at an instrument. He's like in Starbucks. Light and piazza.
Right, it's all in his head, right?
Yeah.
Now you said something interesting, and some of our audience might want to know what a Patreon is. You want to discuss that?
Yeah, it's a platform where you can support artists. There's a lot of like cartoonists on Patreon. It's just a way where somebody can put their art out there and get subscription series, get some support for that monetarily. So an artist could put up, like I could put up me singing Playbill, and every month I could put up something else, and all of my patrons get charged by the month or charged by the entry. You have flexibility. I had one for a while, for a year or so. I had one just as an experiment to see how it would go, and I was putting up like ideas that where a singer and performer could enhance their own vocal technique with an idea. I would give them an idea, give them a way of working with the idea, and then kind of send them out onto their own. Say, what did you find in this idea? Because philosophically, we are our best teacher, and we taught ourselves how to do such important things like walking and talking. Why can't we teach ourselves to learn how to sing? And I think the answer to that is we don't necessarily know what we're looking for. So if there's in the direction, then you can teach yourself how to sing. So that was the idea, and I would post a couple things a month, and depending on how much you pledge, there are different tiers where you could get more content or more access to the artist or whatnot. So it's just a way of making money like YouTube, but YouTube you make money from like advertising. So instead of advertising, you're being paid to create by the people who want you to create.
Did you find it easy?
Oh yeah, simple to put together. I put it out in an hour. Yeah,
that's good. Because that's good. Because a lot of us, as we're being quarantined here, are trying to learn new tools to help out. So I want you to talk about it, because Heather, that's and Alan, that might be something, a ways of teaching, and you can set it up in a Patreon. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people just do it by just going through PayPal, but it's just it organizes it better.
I was just thinking there should be an Ann Morrison one on Patreon. I'm sure you could get some.
Probably we'll do that after this giving challenge. Right now, when this is over with, I'm going to go to that bed over there. I'm going to stay there for 2 days. 2 whole days. Because it's been quite an experience. No, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's important, and I love that. And Heather was talking earlier about this too, that she was fighting a sense of depression in a way. I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's kind of what it is, trying to wrap our heads around what's going to happen to us artists in the future. We know that the big theaters are concerned that they're thinking they're going to open up in the fall. And at the way, now that we've got over 1 million, what did the news say today? 1 million Americans sick with COVID, and the death rate is going up. To reopen places like that is still irresponsible, and it's going to change the way we do group theater and group sports and all kinds of things. So one of the people yesterday was saying, one of our audience was watching, said, "I love what you do, and solo may be the smartest way to re-engage the theater." So our small little theater company may have opened before the Oslo Repertory Company can.
Well, right. Because, for example, I think Brasington Stage announced that late summer they're doing a solo show and spreading out the audience. So that was a big article going around in the last couple of days, and it's solo work.
It's solo work. So we may discover that that's what we have to do.
The risk is will an audience come? Will people
want? That's the thing. Will they come?
Yeah.
And for the solo artists, is it safe to travel? So that's what I'm looking at. I have everything rebooked to the fall, some in the spring, and I'm like, well, gosh. I have one in Sweden that I'm very excited about that got rescheduled to the fall. That's most likely to go forward because it's in Sweden, but then I have to face is it safe for me to get there?
Yeah.
Big time, right? The airlines is having to change everything. I mean, it's like they got to a point where they're having less and less planes going out because they could make lots of money if they could cram everybody into a plane, and they would overbook, and they would have people, we'll give you $200 if you got your seat. That world is over.
Right. Well, there are a lot of flights where there's like 5 people or 1 person, but then you also see the pictures where it's a packed flight and people aren't wearing masks, and that's terrifying.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. No, I had to cancel my flight to Vermont to go to LaGrange because this started. So I couldn't go to London Goes to Broadway. And
I was so excited that you were working with Monica.
Yeah. Well, in the future. Yeah, in the future. So there are things we have to think about. But when he said that, solo theater may be the smartest way to re-engage the theater. That's so very, very true. Also had Joseph Galata. Were any of you a year with Joseph Galata in the season? Joseph came 2 years. Yeah, you felt right. Joseph is doing a tremendous amount of fundraising because he's a big fundraiser in Reno, Nevada, for all kinds of organizations, making sure that children are fed, that the homeless are cared for, that he's just a big advocate for these wonderful programs. So he said, I'm going to have to send you guys a check because I have no time to go online right now. I'm fundraising.
Okay.
This and this. I said, that's fine. But he's been
second best to Joe is money.
He's been watching this online, and he said yesterday, SaraSolo is the best, and Sarasota audiences are magnificent. And that's what we heard a lot from people coming down here. Sarasota audiences are excited about theater. They're excited about solo theater, and they're intelligent. So they have intelligent things to talk about. I tried earlier, Jeremy, to play a testimony from an audience member who's beautiful. Her eloquently talks about what she gets from solo theater. And of course, the computer keeps glitching. So again, that's online. If people want to go in and listen to these beautiful remarks, it's spectacular. Do you got one more song for us?
Sure. Yeah.
Yay.
Here. You choose.
Okay.
Better Than I, What You Need, Unexpressed.
Ooh. You got excited when you said that. Do Unexpressed.
Okay.
It was the inflection of your voice when you said it.
Cool. This is one of the first John Bocchino songs I ever sang. Actually, I did this when I was 18 years old in my undergrad, and last year I figured out what it means. Sometimes I think my heart will burst like a balloon inside my chest, with all the love that's waiting here unexpressed. Fingers that ache to intertwine, warmest of but missing tune. Where is the laugh to echo mine? Pretending to the words my lips would form, circle these 2 arms might make safe and warm. Someone would be safe and warm. What may be the love we yearn to give? Can find a release some other way, coloring how we choose to live every day. The kindness we can share. Can share the comfort these 2 arms might lend longing to meet that pair of eyes. Dark is the night, or endless blue. Holding a light, I'll recognize something clear, something true. Something that seems to mean something I haven't seen since.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Yay.
Oh, yay. Oh, God. Oh.
That's beautiful, Jeremy. Beautiful. We have another guest who wants to come join us.
We have 2 more.
But we've got our studio can only have 6 people at a time, so we have to remove someone. So, Heather, would you like to say? Oh, Alan's going to go, right? Okay, Alan. Yes, go ahead, Alan.
Alan, you're muted.
Okay, goodbye.
Oh,
thank you so
much. Oh,
bye, Alan.
Oh.
And everybody, make sure you go online and go see Alan doing Caleb and Caleb doing Alan. It's really delightful. Hello, Roxanne Fay. How are you?
Hi, Annie. I'm good. Love. How are you?
We're definitely hanging in there. That's for sure.
Good.
And
Lynn's back.
Just joined us back too. So
yeah. This is Roxanne in a production that she created called Home Fires. Is one of the first solo. No, I've seen other solo pieces of yours, but I was extremely moved by this when you did it down at the furniture store. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. And I was so moved by it. You did take it to the United Solo Festival, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It was originally a show written for 2 people,
right?
2 acts and 2 actors.
And I encourage you to do it.
I had a couple of good friends named Annie and Blake who said, this is a solo piece, and then helped me by directing it for me and helping me get up to United Solo. Yeah.
Yeah.
2015, I think.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah. Roxanne was our first year doing something that she didn't write.
Right.
You want to talk about the Testament of Mary and your journey about bringing it to the festival?
On Super Bowl Sunday, by the way.
Pardon?
Sorry?
We both played on Super Bowl Sunday. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Tony's. It was the Tony. It was the night of the Tony.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had somebody actually tell me, gee, I'd love to see your show, but I had a ticket to go see the Tonys on the movie screen. And I was like, oh.
Oh.
All right, fine.
That. No, it's the Testament of Mary is actually a novella by Colm Tobin, and it's a first person narrative by the Mary, the mother of Jesus, after the crucifixion, when his followers and anyone connected to him was in hiding, and it has her in this sort of away place where she is being hidden, and she's tended to by these 2 men who keep asking her questions and want to tell the story, because they're writing it all down, so you can sort of ascertain it's one of the 2 of the 4 gospel writers. And the thing that's interesting about it is that she's not looking at it as anything other than her son, who was taken away from her, by a religious zealotry, and was killed for it.
Right. And you had a little bit of a struggle, didn't you, getting it to us? That was there were times saying, I may not be able to do this. I know I'm in the program, but
I am famous for having really super fantastic ideas simultaneously as people who have a lot more power than I do.
Yeah.
And in this instance, it was, I think this novella needs to be a 1-woman show. And, I was trying to get in touch with Colm Tobin to get permission to do that. And I didn't know that they had already done that, and that Fiona Shaw was playing it in Ireland.
Right.
Oh, well, whoops, So I finally, he was lovely though. He put me in touch with his solicitor, and they did give me permission to do the show.
Yes. Yeah. The Book of Mary.
Good.
Yeah. But it was. I remember, and you probably will not ever do that again. But what was it? What I want to ask you is that the journey of actually playing it on the stage, you learned a lot from it, and tell me about that.
Yeah, I wanted to go. It was very hard to study anything or research anything about Mary herself. So I started really just went right to the Bible to see what it said about her, and very little, but it kept mentioning this other Mary, Magdalene, and she
which you created a piece from.
Yeah, she began to really intrigue me, and the more I read, the more drawn I was to this person of Magdalene, and though Colm was kind enough to let me do the Testament of Mary, I ended up writing my own play about Magdalene, because there's so much about her that can be gleaned from her Gnostic gospel and just a lot of the things that they say in the Bible about her being present at things that other people did not witness. And it's like, why was she the one person who saw the major events, the rolling away of the stone, the angel? Why did he appear to her, before anyone else, and tell her, go tell my brothers that I am here? So there was something about her that was significant to this leader. And I wanted to build on that, and kind of explore religion or faith on my own as well, because I think that's a journey that we all take. We ask ourselves, what do I believe? Do I believe what I was taught as a child? Am I allowed to intellectually look at this and make my decision, or is faith meant only to be blind? So it was a great experience, and I ended up doing that in New York and here in Florida, and it was just a real blessing. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Furniture store too, yeah, home resource.
Yes, yeah.
One day they donated $1,000.
Oh yeah.
Good people. All benefited from them.
So supportive. It was such a joy playing there.
That's right, because you also did the furniture store. Jeremy, you haven't done the furniture store yet. We'll have to have you come back and do it.
You have to do home resource. It's amazing.
Yeah, they were
sitting down, lying down. I do all these.
Absolutely. Well, I did
the funny thing with that is, like, right now we're all in our own living rooms. There, it's everybody in one living room.
A very nice living room.
Yeah,
very
nice. So don't want to spill anything on that living room.
I know. Are we okay with using this furniture piece? I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, and Annie,
yeah. So
we did okay.
No, I just wanted.
I do want to say, since you mentioned money, I want to say that somebody named Heather Massie, who's one of our great friends. David's $50. Janice Docking donated $100. Roxanne Soloway 25. Brad Wages 25. Valerie David, who's a great friend of all of us, former performer here and a great friend now of Heather, because they went across the country together to a festival in Indiana. Gave $25. Gary Sweetman, that's wonderful, gave 25. Robert Foti 25. Great, there we are.
Roxanne Fay gave money too, from what I understand, right?
Yes, Roxanne Fay did.
Sure did.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. Yes. Yeah, I didn't get to everybody from yesterday either. So
yeah, no, yeah. So I want to look back to Roxanne for a minute, because Roxanne went off on a fantastic journey to Scotland, in a castle in Scotland, to write this next piece, which I had the great pleasure of before she went. She sat on my couch and asked to talk. She talked about, tell me a little bit more about Celtic mythology, Celtic magic, because I want to possibly gave her a bunch of books. And it was a lovely afternoon. She went off to Scotland. And then I had the great pleasure of seeing one performance at an Urbanite Theater of her latest piece. Talk about it, Roxanne.
Yeah, it's called Thrice to Mine, and it's based in the historical figure of the woman who was Lady Macbeth. Was actually a very, very different kind of person than William Shakespeare had painted her. she was alive in the 11th century, and she was directly descended from the original kings, King Kenneth of what is now Ireland, who came over across the water and claimed Scotland for the pet for his people. And she did indeed marry Macbeth. He was her second husband. She had a husband by whom she had a child previously, and then she ended up marrying Macbeth because Macbeth killed her husband, who was also his cousin, because his cousin had killed his father to take his title and lands. So when Macbeth came of age, he went to fought against this man named Gil Coleman to take back his father's lands and the title. And because he had killed, her name is Gruoth, her husband, the Celtic tradition says that if you kill a man, you are responsible for that man's family. So he married her. Right. Yeah. And she shortly thereafter delivered the child, Lulach. When you read Shakespeare, and there's always that line that Lady Macbeth says, to him I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me, but they have no children. So even when I was young, I was like, there's something else in here. It's and I was able to use some of Shakespeare's words, his words, Macbeth's words, more than Lady's words. She loses, of course, Macbeth in battle, but it's a lot about the nature of their relationship and how they come to reign together, because they were actually very successful leaders. Macbeth was king for 17 years, and it was time of great prosperity.
They were considered a good king and queen.
Yes, very good. Yeah,
in Shakespeare.
Yeah, no, they were actually good guys.
Yes, they were the good guys.
Them as bad guys because
King James, right?
Yes, because King James, who had just ascended the throne, was a descendant of the Macduff line and that character. So Duff was the hero of Shakespeare's Macbeth. And Lady Macbeth is actually based on a whole different noblewoman that is in the Hollingshead Chronicles.
Right.
This crazy woman who was so ambitious, she drove her husband to murder people to better himself. So he borrowed that idea for Lady Macbeth. And then of course, Macduff is the hero there. So
where are you with this play now?
It premiered in August of last year at Bridge Street Theater in New York, and then brought it down and did Urbanite's Modern Works for one night. I did it in St. Petersburg at 620, and then as a benefit for Tampa Repertory Theater. And I was supposed to go up to Richmond Shakespeare in Richmond, Indiana in June to do it as part of their season, just, a one-nighter kind of thing. But unfortunately, situations being what they
and I wanted you to do it in our festival, but you were getting ready to go that same time. You're going to do rehearsals for the play Doubt.
Yeah,
so
we were.
We'll find another way to feature your play, because you only did it once at Urbanite. Have you come down to Sarasota and do the whole thing?
Yeah,
and it will in the future when we can have people 6 feet away from each other. We'll see it live.
Right.
I have to tell you, audience, that I think I love Roxanne's work, but I think this particular piece is probably her best writing ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
It really is. We learn each time we do something. We learn more and more about how we do this, and it's to date my favorite piece you've done.
Yeah. Well, keep your fingers crossed.
With what was one of your, I think one of your greatest acting feats last year. I don't love giving them a shout out because we're all sort of today we're all looking for money from the same people, but Urbanite produced an incredible solo play that you did. What it was called?
Apples in Winter.
Yeah,
Apples in Winter. What a tour de force! And I can say this. If anybody else has seen this, and they would agree with me that it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen you do.
Well,
and so I can't wait now to combine this beautiful thing that we found with that. So that's great. I have to tell you that Jeremy's mom is on YouTube and doesn't know how to post what she just sent to us, but I'd love to read it to you all.
Okay, yeah.
Ellen says, I don't know if I can read this. You are so beautiful, Anne, Blake, your talented team. Ahead of your time, I mean SaraSolo. Who knew? I feel this is going to be your biggest moment yet. Aligns with the healers in you and what you are meant to do. Of course, I will be donating what I can and following you closely in my heart until I am in your city. She is moving to Sarasota. And Jer, I was afraid it was going to be unexpressed. Tisk. Your mother is going to be crying all day.
Well, she
deeply proud. Did I pronounce that correctly? Deeply proud. Hearts to all of you. Love to all of you. All.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. She did a beautiful little video for us as a testament to being an audience. I tried to play it when we first came online, and of course, my computer is crashing every time I try and put something up. So I will put that up also on SaraSolo TV. It's a sweet little tribute. There'll be a little tribute section. I get a chance to see Ellen Mossman talk. It's just lovely. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Lynne, I want to bring you back into the conversation. And one thing that struck me was, I think several of us have mentioned what happened in our youth that sort of led to where we are today. And one of the greatest things that you do, I think, is create a podcast based in people living in their art. I've been involved in an interview with you, and I think that you might do this with most of your interviewees, is ask them the question, what led you to this? What happened in your childhood that led you to doing what you do now? And she has a myriad number of stories from stars and average people who are all artists in some form. And they're all listenable too, by the way. If you go to LynneBernfield.com, is that simple?
No, it's the Lynne Show.
TheLynneShow.com. Yes.
The Lynne Show. I'll put that up too. The Lynne Show. If they search the Lynne Show, it'll come up. You can listen to archived broadcasts.
And they're really wonderful, everybody. If you haven't listened, please do. She's a wonderful interviewer. She gives, in fact, some people, I can't remember who it was that you interviewed that said, boy, I felt like I just had therapy.
Right. And I think, Lynne, you're an example really of what one does to evolve, because your story is fascinating as a songwriter in New York, and how you finally landed in Sarasota as a psychotherapist. I think that's true, right?
That's right.
And how you have now you're working with all of it, because you are you're recreating some of your songs, and you are re-singing some of your songs, and you are, I think, still writing songs and performing in all the ways that you used to, and yet you are still a remarkable psychotherapist, I assume, in knowing you so beautifully well. But you have full practice here, and delightfully, you already found a way to be within this awful COVID, because much of what you do with your podcast, and I think you do some psychotherapy on the phone.
I've been having my practice on the phone since '98.
You anticipated this.
What's so amusing to me is that everybody, other therapists and people who are not therapists, would constantly tell me this couldn't be done. And of course, now they're all doing it because they don't have any choice. So exactly. I just think it's amusing. And also, in a way, it points out something that I think you were alluding to, and that is the willingness to be who you are instead of who the world seems to think you need to be. And that's not an easy thing to do in our culture. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons, and you're, of course, particularly, you're right, the first question and the only question I ask my interviewees, so I have interviewed several of you on there, yeah. But you know, if you haven't been interviewed by me, this is what I will ask. It's just, you know, how did this happen? How did you get started singing, dancing, painting, writing, whatever it is? And inevitably, you hear that a parent or a teacher encouraged this, supported this, was part of it. And that's, I think, incredibly rare, because I think, and of course, I tell my clients, this is the gospel according to Lynne. You don't have to believe what I say, just what I think. If you agree, okay, good. I think everybody is an artist. I think everybody comes into this world. I mean, I don't know how many people I've interviewed who said, you know, I could sit down at the piano at 3 and play what I heard. You know, I started drawing when I made my first recording when I was 18 months old, and I'm on pitch and I know all the lyrics right. So I believe that everybody comes in with it. Not everybody gets permission to do it. And luckily, the people I interview have all in one way or another gotten permission to do it. And maybe what you're doing with the kids in school now, mm-hmm. you know, the educational projects that you have going on is going to make it possible for those kids who may have not, because, you know, maybe he wouldn't want me to say this. Anyway, I interviewed this guy who's on Broadway at the moment, a writer. And he told me this story about how many times he got crushed, how many times he tried to do something and they wouldn't go and they couldn't hear it and they didn't believe in him. And they over and over and over. I said to him, how did you keep doing this with all this discouragement? And he thought and thought. And finally he said, you know, when I was in the 5th grade, my 5th grade teacher wrote a letter home to my parents. I still have it. I am so grateful to have him in my class. I know that he's going to do wonderful things. I'm so impressed with him. And that was enough. That was enough to keep him going. Well, this is such a soapbox for me. I'm so sorry.
Oh no,
it's amazing.
No. And yes, it is, and you know, and it's all those things. It's Lynne, you're talking about the core of all of us, and you know, because I think oftentimes we will focus on what discouraged us, and I know I talked about that with you as well, but we forget, and I'll tell you, when I had my interview with you, I forgot the encouragement. I forgot until you gave me that spark. Because I realized that's not, I've never been dealing with the discouraged, you know, the discouragement from parents or teachers, especially. I kind of let that go. I'm leading with the thing that someone incredible told me. And which is strangely, and not strangely, how I teach and how I love leading people from something. And yes, absolutely, with the kids who are today working with us, this is the result of this incredible program, because they now know how to say who they are. They talk about, and interest, you know, I haven't talked to them yet, but some of the seniors who worked with us last year and are now looking at their future, some of them are saying, I'm not really interested in becoming an actor. I think there are other areas in my life that I'd like to explore now. Mm-hmm. Partly, I think maybe because the brakes were on, but also because they had a chance to look deep down inside who they were, because that's what they all did. All the juniors that we worked with last year came up with remarkable volcanoes of stuff.
Right.
And they were able to look at their core in a way that nobody had asked them to do before. And I think it helped a lot of them. We know how we are as seniors in high school. A lot of times we're flopping around. We don't really know what it is exactly, but we go to the next step because it's expected. We'll go to college, and then I'll figure it out. And I'm not discouraging college at all, or some job in life or something. So, absolutely, I think you've hit at the core of artistry, and I think that's what's so remarkable about your podcast, because it's to a person. We get to the core of the artist, and we get to remind ourselves, again, as we're doing this self-congratulatory stuff here, we get to remind ourselves of we're the communicators. The world needs us, and especially now. But the world needs us.
So I'm just going to interrupt for a second because we've got about 5 more minutes
Go ahead.
of this broadcast. And so I want to make sure that everybody gets to say what they want to say. But we have about 5 more minutes. So Heather, you wanted to say something, and then we're going to just kind of wrap up. Because the fundraiser is almost over with. And I do want to end on the last note of our thank yous. But go ahead, Heather, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, another love note to SaraSolo is how much you make it a family, and how we all feel so welcomed, and even to the point that you trust our opinions as to who might be another good member of the family, that you trusted me when I said Valerie David, and miraculously a slot opened up that year, and that you trusted the 2 of us when we said Cody Clark.
Right.
So that's just a wonderful thing that you help us to contribute to the lives of the other solo performers, to give the gift of SaraSolo. So I'm in terms of me, when I come back, whenever it is, for the National Council of Jewish Women, they're going to be selling tickets in Sarasota. So we'll definitely put word out to you guys when we know for sure if it's February, March. And anybody who wants to follow me, it's heathermassie.com, MASSIE.
Right.
And of course, donate at sarasolo.org.
We still got 15 more minutes. So
15 minutes.
Hey.
As it stands right now, and I know we'll end with this, but as it stands right now, we are number 16. We've raised over $17,000.
Hey,
wow.
Amazing.
That's a combined something. That's with the match as well, because money up to $100 for every donation will be matched. So we're doing mighty fine. We are the number 1 theater company.
I honestly thought that this year we were probably get maybe 4,000 if we were lucky, because I didn't think anybody during the COVID was going to be able to do anything. So I just didn't. I just kept I didn't put my expectations high. So my mouth is shocked. This is great. This means that we get to expand our educational program, and I really thank everybody for contributing to that, and you guys for coming on and helping us celebrate all that. Jeremy, what do you have to say before we have to say goodbye?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's incredible. I'm so I'm blown away, the amount of support. That's terrific. What's occurring to me, I mean, Heather's absolutely right. Like the family feel, but also look what just happened today. Like I feel like I just learned so many new things, and I got connected to so many new people. So it just keeps expanding from there. The network grows. So it's really an amazing thing when you get something facilitating the sharing of art.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's find a way to do it.
Stay tuned for the Annie Jeremy show, because it's a remarkable cabaret performance. And everyone's required to wear their nose. Mine is not here. I just have red lips. I should wear them.
Roxanne.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm so grateful that people are really, putting forth such good energy and good thoughts, during a time when it could be very easy to be very selfish and self-contained. So reaching out is something that I think we all appreciate from everyone. And it's something that I think Annie and Blake do well, is teaching other people how to reach out because they're so able to do it themselves.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lynne.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that it's not just that you gave an opportunity for those people to discover themselves. Opportunities are probably there on the floor, but permission is very rare, and encouragement and acceptance is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of talk now about how difficult it is to be alone, how difficult it is to be by yourself, to be separated. But it's also an opportunity to look into yourself, to ask yourself, what is it that I haven't done that I wanted to do? What is it that I yearned for, thought I would do, was drawn to, got excited about that I didn't do? We all have time now for that. And not only that, there's YouTube, and there are ways to explore the things that you didn't do, didn't have to give permission to yourself.
Right.
And people like Annie and Blake to reach out to for that permission, that encouragement, because that can be done on Zoom. You don't have to be in the room to get permission to yourself.
Ellen Mossman just wrote, I love that, Lynne. Let's help kids feel permission to show who they are, what they have for us all to see.
I want to say one more thing. At the end of my interview, I asked everybody the same question. So you've donated a life to this writing, acting, dancing, whatever it is. What is it that you might say about that? What do you feel about that? And maybe 98% of the people say exactly the same thing. You know, it's a difficult life, and I may not have as much money as my friends, and other people have houses and I don't, but I would never do anything else.
Yeah.
It's because they found themselves.
Yeah.
It can be nothing more important, I think.
I think so. And I think maybe one of the gifts of this COVID-19 is that everybody else gets a chance to maybe have that experience too. We have to slow down, we have to reflect on things, and maybe become better people because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but you two don't have to be better people.
No. Always going to be better.
How could they get better?
It's probably time for us to wrap up. And I want to thank all our guests today and our guests that we had yesterday, and those of you who are figured out how to go on YouTube to watch this live, which is great. These are both recorded, so you can go back and watch anything again. So please also don't feel free to go to SaraSolo Productions to see us. For instance, I'm getting ready to put up Roxanne. I want to do a better presentation for Heather. All of you, if you have living room theater pieces that you want to send, we will do a celebration of it. And we'll keep
those who are watching, please subscribe.
Yes, please. Oh, I forget that part. Subscribe to our channel, which would be great.
Yeah,
like it if you like anything.
That's really good. And we're going to be doing this a lot more. We're going to do some broadcasting. We're going to be doing some interviewing a lot.
Right.
Because,
and I'm going to get a better way of doing this with my camera.
Yeah.
Right.
And love also from Dan Leary, one of your other solo artists, who's at work now. But I know most of you, Annie, Blake, Lynne, and Jeremy would have known Dan. Dan sang with you as well. So love from him.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. We'll send our love back. Okay.
I will.
Okay, everybody. I'm going to say thank you for all your wonderful work. Now I'm going to get teary-eyed. I do this all the time when I have to say goodbye to my family.
Yeah.
Keep in touch. Keep us posted what's going on, and let's find Zooms and all kinds of things so that we don't. What I hate the most is I'm not hugging anybody anyhow, and we know that hugging is so important for your immune system, and I can't wait for the day when we can embrace each other again. You know. Yeah. Yeah.
And let's say happy birthday to Huckleberry Walton.
Oh yeah!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you!
The daffodils have risen. They're all there now. So that's really great.
All right.
Wonderful. Annie, why don't you and I stay on here a little bit, and we'll do a little blast up. Thank you also.
Thank you, everybody.
Incredibly.
Bye-bye. There you go.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. A bientôt. And all you have to do is hit the leave studio at the bottom of your screen. There you go. All right.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. What a wonderful experience.
Andy,
see, now my computer is not frozen anymore.
Yeah, really. So look at the bottom scroll. That's the amount. I was a little wrong. It's it's more like it's 15,000, but that's hell of a lot. That's very close to the 20.
Yeah, wow.
I'm so pleased by this.
Yeah, me too.
And I thank all of you, anybody who's still watching.
Anybody who's contributed. I haven't been able to see who's been donating, except for
and
Blake.
Teresa Puskar is the latest. She's in addition to all the.
Oh, excellent. So, you're going to get lovely thank you notes. and we still got actually 10 more minutes that people think, oh my goodness, I'm going to run and do some donation right now.
and Kuniko Yamamoto just gave us 25. So
yay! Another wonderful artist that we adore so much.
Annie, I think we'll do this. I think we'll do this more often. I really like. We won't have a fundraiser involved, but I think I really like. I love this form, and as we're learning more technically how to bring people in and off, and do all of that part of it, I just think that there are things to say, and I would love to. One thing I'm thinking about is. Because it kind of has to do with your career, but it's. I would love to do a full hour with somebody and using you as an example of what it might be or a format. I would love to tell people what they don't know about you, and taking somebody, I mean any of those stories, but a lot of things,
my son.
Things that people might not know about your career, for instance, and about your great choices. Because I mean, there's the beautiful documentaries there. It's out there, and it involves a few things that you have to say about your life. But there are other things that would be, I think, really, really great for people to see, and maybe performances by certain people that are kind of obscure out there, even though that people can find them on YouTube. Right. I'd love to take somebody who never became a gigantic star on Broadway, for instance, and show where they are. I think there was one time when we were looking at 5 different women, you included, who had made it to a point. Like our friend Lottie, who got all the way to. I mean, she did Dracula on Broadway, and then she did A Life on Broadway, and she was being touted as sort of the next big thing in straight theater, but that all went away. Right. And I'm not saying that she lost her dream, but she made some other choices. And I think it's a curiosity because we hear all kinds of things about people who have made it and who've been there. Oh, great. Thanks, Patty.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I don't know about you, but I'm going to have another cup of coffee.
Yeah, I am too.
And a long sleep.
Yep.
But when we get off, we'll have to connect
all these people.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I'm my heart is full. My heart is full. And I tell you, I got scared because I didn't know what, you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago when we didn't see a future. We just didn't, and I didn't mean that like we're going to die, but I just didn't know where we were all going to go. Yeah. Everything has to change. And I've been saying this for years, that something huge has to happen to make humanity be a better humanity.
And when we think specifically about a company like SaraSolo, for instance, we're starting to get ideas. And one is that maybe we'll do a full festival online. Who knows if we have to do that? We'll find other ways to bring solo synergy to groups of people or maybe individuals. Maybe this will be a one-on-one kind of instruction thing. Right. You and I are both working on instructional broadcasts, in fact. Right. I really want to get your cabaret performance kind of a broadcast of things that people can see as instructional sort of in videos. And I want to do the same thing with writing. And we'll find all kinds of other ways to do that.
Okay.
So there we are. Oh, we love you too, Heather. Thank you so much.
Let me both get well-deserved rest, and we can celebrate soon. I am so jazzed. How wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Blake, I'm going to say good night or good afternoon or good morning or whenever we are. Soon it'll be good afternoon, but well done, darling.
Thank all the Sarasolo community and everybody internationally who gave money.
Thank you, Sarasota.
Amazing.
You know? All right.
So we love you from Sarasolo.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.